The question I'm asking you, do you know your God? Do you know the God you are serving? Do you know what He's able to do? They said, our God is able. In other words, we know who our God is and we know what He's able to do. In most cases, we don't know what God is able to do. And so we limit God. In the verse 15 of Daniel chapter 3, it says, I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue I have made when you hear the sound of the musical instrument. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And then what God will be able to rescue you from my power? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if He doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up. Nebuchadnezzar took the fight from these three young men when he said, and then I will see what God would save you. From where they came, they were actually bearing the consequence of their disobedience because they had rejected God and they were doing whatever they wanted. So God gave them out into captivity. And so they were taken out of their land, Jerusalem. And the question we have to ask is, what were they doing in Babylon? Being in Babylon was not part of God's will, but because of their disobedience, they were captured as slaves and taken into Babylon. They are not there because God sent them. They are actually there because of their disobedience. But in the midst of this, these guys still had what it takes to say, we will not bow. And the king decided to give them second chance. They said, look, we will still not bow. We have made up our minds that we will not bow. And he said, then I will see the God who will save you. And the Bible says they increased the fire because he was going to throw them into fire. And they increased it. But the statement they made in their response to the king is what I want us to learn some few things from. One, if we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. The first thing was they knew the God they serve. They could say the God we serve because Nebuchadnezzar said in the verse 6:15b, and then what God will be able to rescue you from my power. And in their response, they said, if we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able. He's able. Our God is able. The first thing you must know when you come face to face with trials and temptations and difficult times is you must know the God you serve. They said, the God we serve is able. It means he has the ability, he has the power, he has what it takes to save us. Our God is able. Look at the king standing with all his strength and with all his power and with all his soldiers, and the fire is already set for those who disobey, and yet they can still look at him It said, our God is able. In other words, they recognize the ability of God. Regardless of the influence of Nebuchadnezzar, they knew God was able to rescue them. He is able to save us. And then he will rescue us from your power, your majesty. So they said, he is able and he will. So the first thing is they knew their God and they spoke out of conviction. He will. That is faith. He will. So first, our God is able. We know that. So this is a function of knowledge. We know our God is able. Then they said, and he will is faith in his ability. He will is a conviction. So it's not just that he's able, but he will, because faith is, and they believe. And he who comes to God must believe that he is a good God, that he reward those who seek him. He's a God who says yes, and it is yes. So they say, our God is able. We know his abilities, and he will. We believe in his abilities. But then they said, but even if he doesn't, at this point, it's not that he's not able or he cannot, but if he chooses not to, the first thing is we see that they know their God or they knew God and then they believe God. However, if God decides not to, that will be his sovereign will. That in his sovereign will, he can decide to let them go into the fire and be burnt by the fire. So God is able to rescue us and he will rescue us because knowledge says we know his ability. Faith says he will. But then the third one is that they recognize the sovereign will of God and said, even if he chooses not to deliver us, it's not because he doesn't have the ability, it's not because he cannot, but it is his sovereign will not to deliver us. But even if he decides to exercise his sovereignty, we will still not bow. So we see knowledge, we see faith, but now we are seeing loyalty or commitment. They were loyal and committed to their God.